Just what is sectarianism? It can seem like some faith communities have been in conflict with one another for centuries. Research on sectarianism shows us that it manifests in different forms and continuously evolves over space and time. It varies from everyday local judgments, like when parents don't want their children to marry outside their identity group, to radical sectarianism, such as when extremist groups like ISIS seek to impose their values on entire societies. But politically, the most ubiquitous form is when sectarian identity is used instrumentally, meaning when people try to manipulate and make use of religious, ethnic, or national identities in order to advance their agendas. It can also play out in state functions, such as in how public services are distributed or state contracts awarded. People who study sectarianism often talk about three different perspectives. There are primordialists, who believe sectarian identities are so ingrained and ancient that they are unlikely to ever change. Then there are instrumentalists, who view identity as transient, amorphous, and used solely by people in power in pursuit of their own interests. And constructivists, who argue that religion matters, but that identities are socially constructed and context-specific. The constructivist view points out that many other issues like geopolitics, national identities, social class, culture, and all too often the pressure to bolster support for a certain political regime all feed into the way sectarian identities are used for political ends. Across the Middle East, political elites have turned to sectarian rhetoric in times of political crisis. This was apparent when they fought back against the mass movements that emerged during the Arab uprisings. In the years that followed, both Iran and Saudi Arabia saw the chance to increase their power and influence across the region. Tellingly, many of the popular movements that had risen up to fight back against corruption and injustice were built along anti-sectarian lines. In Bahrain, for example, the rallying call of the protests was not Sunni, not Shia, just Bahraini. In 2019 in Lebanon, protesters adopted the chant Kalon Yani Kalon, which means all of them means all of them, to show their frustration with political elites from all groups. Those chants elucidate one of the key ways to tackle sectarianism. Political actors and activists can build counter-narratives around the shared problems that are common to people across religious and cultural divides. Labour movements and anti-austerity campaigners, for example, can effectively bring divided communities together around a common cause. Pluralist movements, meanwhile, seek to broaden the spectrum of political voices by bringing other identity groups like gender and race into the conversation. So is there a way forward? Is it possible to build towards a more harmonious world, where age-old resentments are finally left behind? Well, change and progress are certainly possible, but it's no easy task. Sectarian rhetoric is a powerful political tool, and anti-sectarian voices tend to get co-opted when they work inside established political structures. As witnessed in Northern Ireland, power-sharing agreements between different cultural groups often lead to corruption and clientelism, not to mention opening new channels for external influence. These dynamics undermine democracy and enshrine sectarian identities. Sectarian identities are not engraved in stone, however. Ultimately, moving beyond them requires building a world where they are no longer politically useful.